In today's stories, a new crime wave is sweeping the country in the form of woolen graffiti. Scientists have invented an invisibility cloak. We help them find it. And the latest in weather around the country. But first, a story that will turn your world upside down. Chopper?
If you think the world is getting more and more topsy-turvy, it turns out you're right. Builders in Germany have built an upside-down house. And before you think they may have read the plans upside down, they did it on purpose. The wacky abode was built as a tourist attraction. As well as being a comment on the state of the world, the house is 23 feet tall and rests on its roof and has steel beams in the attic. Inside the house there are beds screwed into the ceiling, upside-down wardrobes, an upside-down kitchen, and even an upturned bathroom, though it's not known if anyone has tried to have a bath in it or go to the toilet. Normally a house like this would take 3 weeks to build. This one took over 4 months because workers kept getting confused by the strange angles of the walls. Many tourists visiting the house complain of the feeling sick and dizzy after just a few minutes inside. We now cross over to our reporter Zoe, who is inside the house. How are you feeling, Zoe?
Thanks, Trevor. I'm here with the owners of the house, Brianna and Kira. I'm feeling, well, kind of dizzy. So, what made you guys decide of building this upside-down house?
Just the artistic urge, you know. I mean, it took over, and we just had to build this house, you know, because, you know, you need to have more unique things in the world that aren't so structured and strict, you know?
Kira, your point of view?
Well, you see, the TV wasn't working. There was nothing on the TV.
Well, yeah. Well, what's your comment on how this house impacts on the state of the world?
Well, you know, the state of the world, look, it's so strict and formal, and we just need to get out there and use our creative souls to just express ourselves. And, you know, the world is supposed to be just a big ball of fun, and right now it's very square. And speaking of the world, you know, global warming is...
Yeah.
Well, you see, the reception wasn't working very well, and so the picture was all fuzzy.
Okay. What are some of the challenges in building this house where everything is upside down?
Well, you know, you do get used to the blood rushing to your head every morning, and, you know, people come in and they say, oh, I'm dizzy, I'm getting sick. You get used to it, and, you know, I just think that just because you have to strap yourself to your bed or your chair, you know, because otherwise you'll end up on the floor, which is the ceiling, it doesn't make it a bad house. Right, Kira?
Well, yeah. That's...
Wow. Have you ever thought of selling this house?
No, Zoe. You can't put a price on creativity. Would you put a price on creativity?
What's that? Well, thanks for being with us here, guys. I'm Zoe for Sneewz. Back to you in the studio.
Feel like vomiting. Now for a story that is truly out of sight. Look out, Harry Potter. The world of science is catching up to the world of magic. Scientists of Europe have created a 3D invisibility cloak which can hide objects by bending light waves. It has been found that light can be controlled using special tiny crystals that make objects disappear so far, but hope that it won't be long before they are hiding cars, planes, and even people. Themselves invisible. One scientist says the possibilities are endless and we are very excited. However, since inventing the invisibility cloak, the scientists have been having trouble finding it. As soon as we put it down somewhere, it just disappears. The inventor of the cloak said it appears they are having trouble finding other things too, like their lunch, what they may think be underneath the cloak. What will this invention actually be used for? Hoping to see through the reasons behind the invisibility cloak? Here is our spot reporter, Rose, with more on the story.
Hello, I'm Rose, and with me today is Jessie, the mad scientist, and her assistant Cassidy. Thank you for joining us today. So what made you want to make an invisible cloak?
Well, I've always wanted one because I think they're very fascinating. And yeah, that's why I made it.
Okay. How did you make? Why did you make the cloak?
Well, I really want to be invisible. You're an assistant, alright? I really wanted to be invisible.
Okay, so can you show us how the cloak works?
Sure. You put it over yourself and you turn invisible.
Interesting. So how long did it take for you to make the cloak?
It took so long, we started to grow beards.
Ooh. Okay, so that make things very clear. Thank you for joining us today, GC and Cassidy, and back to Chopper and Jeffrey in the studio.
And now, how's this for an interesting yarn? A new wave of graffiti crime is covering the country. Thanks to our underground gang known as the Midnight Nisses, these wall-waving criminals are covering tree branches and lampposts with small jerseys and scarves under the cover of darkness. Police say the knitted activities of the gang are illegal because their woolly crimes are being done on public property. Without permission, the popularity of the woolen graffiti is growing and more public objects are being wrapped up every night. But the problem is growing. Police say and warn that if the Midnight Nisses are caught soon, every tree, lamppost and traffic light in the country will be warmly dressed against the code. The problem is spinning out of control. There are a close-knit group of dyed-in-the-wool criminals. We are stitching together a case, but it's not seamless. There is no real pattern to the crimes. A police spokesman said today, so far the criminal knitters have escaped arrest and continued to pull the wool over the eyes of both the public and the police. We go now to a secret location with our investigative reporter, Nikki, who has an exclusive...
Thanks guys, I'm Nikki and I'm here in this top secret location with two of the members of the Midnight Knitters gang. So can you two please reveal your names to us?
Sup, pal, my name's James. Yeah, and I'm Fred.
Are you two worried that now that you revealed your names the police will come after you?
I'm not really worried about the police, cause we done nothing wrong. We done nothing wrong, we're just dressing up the trees, giving them some wood. Cause they might get cold.
So you don't consider yourselves criminals at all?
No, we're not criminals, eh? Not anymore, so...
What you're doing is illegal, so that does make you criminals.
We're not criminals, okay? We're not criminals! Pour me a cuppa.
Now that James has left us, I think it'd be a good time to go back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Nikki. And here we have James with the sport. What have you got much to say there, James?
I'm James, and tonight on Sneewz Sports, we start with...
The New Zealand All Blacks have had a stunning victory, as usual, over Australia in the Rugby World Cup final. The final score being 27-12. The captain of the team, inspirational captain, Jasper Marshall, is live. Jasper. Yeah, I'm stoked for the boys, you know. We put our pride and soul into that game, you know. Those Aussies didn't know what happened, and those sports back to you, Chopper and Jeffrey.
Thank you, James. And now over to Susan and Boyle with the weather.
Thanks, guys. Hi, I'm Susan. And good evening, New Zealand. Let's have a look at tomorrow's weather. Starting in the far north of Kaitaia, looking out for some pretty flash flooding and raindrops as big as your head. If you're going outside, make sure you're wearing a hat.
Moving down the country to Auckland, there'll be a mix of conditions, some fair conditions and some unfair conditions. But those are the conditions and we'll just have to put up with them.
Oh, that weather. There will be no weather at all for the Bay of Plenty. It's taking a short holiday, but it will expect it to be back for the weekend.
In Napier and Hastings, the weather will sometimes be changeable and sometimes not. We have really no idea what will happen there.
In the Taranaki, a mild depression brings with a very dull day with no highlights at all. It'll be overcast and gloomy all morning, but things should clear up by the evening, so don't worry.
Wellington will have another capital day. There'll be no wind at all, and the day conditions will be so pleasant they'll actually be extreme.
In the top of the south... In the top of the south...
In the top of the South Island. In the top of the South Island, Kaikoura can expect a good day. Have some friends over for lunch, and read a newspaper, but try and stay indoors as the weather will be just terrible.
A real mix for Christchurch, which will be some unreasonable rainfall, some sensible wind and moderate thunderstorms and some very angry snow.
Now back to the lower south. Dunedin will be frosty and unfriendly until late morning when the sun will pop over for a visit. Everybody likes the sun.
That's all from us. I'm Susan.
And I'm Boyle.
And remember, if it's raining outside, that's the weather for you.
Good night, New Zealand. Now it's back to Chopper and Jeffrey.
This is me. Thanks, Susan and Boyle. Well, that's all we have time for. We hope you've enjoyed this evening's broadcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Until then, I'm Chopper.
And I'm Jeffrey for Sneewz. Goodbye.
Nahora.